What is going on, Trash Talkers? We are back with another episode for you. Today, we're going to be breaking down UFC 260, Stipe Miocic versus Francis Ngannou, number 2. I can't wait to get into this. All that and much more coming your way right now! All right, Nick. Well, UFC 260 is only one day away. We got Stipe Miocic versus Francis Ngannou 2. Obviously, we lost a huge fight on this card, but we're not here to focus on the negative. We're here to focus on the positive. I'm excited about Stipe versus Ngannou 2. I know you are too. Why don't you break it down? Let us know everything that we need to know about this fight and what your prediction is so we can all bet on it together.
Francis Ngannou versus Stipe Miocic 2 is going to be so far better than the first outcome. This is going to be the big fight that actually pays off this time. We're going to have a finish in this one. We have two fighters that know each other and have learned from their first experiences in the ring, in the octagon together, and this fight is fully going to deliver. In that first fight, we learned a bunch of things. Starting off with Ngannou, we learned that he likes to go headhunting, and that his lack of skill truly came into the picture. He didn't know how to handle Stipe and his double leg takedowns. He didn't understand what to do in the center of the octagon when he didn't have the fence to get himself up off the mat. So I think that in the last 3.5 years that Francis Ngannou has had since that fight, he has learned a ton and grown so much as a fighter. With Stipe Miocic, honestly, I think that was in near the prime of his career. I think that he is closing in on the end of his career and probably only has a few more fights left in him in the UFC. He will go down as one of, if not the best heavyweight fighter in UFC history. As it stands right now, Stipe Miocic is the best wrestler in the heavyweight division and is going to rely heavily on that wrestling skill and ability, just like he did in that first fight. He's going to hope that Ngannou has not improved. He's going to test that out and see where he stands with him on the ground. I think if Stipe can get him down to the ground, that is the goal. But right now, I think Francis Ngannou has everything in his arsenal to get the belt over to him. Francis Ngannou has shown us he is much more of a complete fighter than he was back then, and has what it takes to compete against a guy like Stipe Miocic. That power, that freak power that Francis Ngannou has is going to come into full effect, and we're going to see one of the most spectacular knockouts we've ever seen in the UFC ever.
Damn. I'm already ready to go, and I'm not even fighting. But Francis Ngannou, listen, this man is something different. I watched many of his fights, but I also watched his podcast with Joe Rogan, which is exclusively on Spotify. And let me tell you, this man comes from extremely humble beginnings. His path just to get here shows me the resilience and what this man is willing to go through to achieve greatness. And listen, this is not to take away from anything that Stipe Miocic has done or will ever do, but Francis Ngannou is not. He is not going to just accept that he lost that first fight. He is coming for blood, and he is coming for Stipe's head. And it's not out of disrespect. He actually respects Stipe a lot. These guys like each other a lot, but when that octagon gets locked and we hear fight from whoever is refereeing, it's all business. And I expect, like you said, Francis Ngannou to actually try to knock his head off of his body. Taking a look at the tail of the tape here, Stipe Miocic comes in with a 20-3 record in the UFC. He has won his last fight representing the United States of America. He's sitting at 6'5", weighing in at 240 pounds with an 80-inch reach and a 39-inch leg reach versus Francis the Predator Ngannou, who has a 15-3 record. He also won his last fight, coming out of Cameroon. He stands at 6'4", 250 pounds, with an 83-inch reach and a 44.5-inch leg reach. He's got a 3-inch reach advantage on Stipe, and he's got a 5.5-inch leg reach on Stipe Miocic. This has definitely got to be concerning. On top of the fact that it's expected that Ngannou might be coming into this at closer to 265 than 250. You're expecting a 20-pound difference, 3-inch reach, 5.5-inch leg reach. I mean, how does Stipe Miocic actually like defend in this fight?
Well, that's the thing. He doesn't. He kind of runs for his life, but it's going to be very hard in the 25-foot ring. When they first fought, it was in the 30-foot octagon. Now it's a much smaller cage, and you would think that would bode well for the wrestler, the guy who likes to ground and pound, but it really doesn't. Francis Ngannou works extremely well off the cage. If you look back at that first fight, whenever Stipe had him up against the cage, Stipe could not get him down to the ground because of how strong Francis Ngannou is. He is pure muscle everywhere, and it takes a freaking army to get him down if there is a fence behind him. Stipe is not going to have a lot of success with those double A takedowns. He's going to have to be very creative and try to gas him out just like he did if he's going to win this fight. But Francis Ngannou learned from his mistakes. He knows how to take power off of his punches. He knows not to gas himself out in the first round. He knows what Stipe is going to do as far as takedowns and all the other tricks he's going to bring along with him. Francis Ngannou is a much more well-prepared fighter than he was back then. He was still new to the game back in 2017, but now he is a different fighter, a much more mature fighter, and going to show us just why he is the best fighter in the heavyweight division.
Breaking down the statistics that we have here for you, taking a look at Stipe Miocic first, he, based on his wins, 79% of which have come by knockout or TKO, 0 from submission, and 21% from decision. His average fight time per a 15-minute fight, so 3 rounds, actually lasts 11 minutes and 29 seconds. So he's usually getting into the third round. That means that his tank, his ability to last in these longer fights is actually very, very built up. He has the ability to last really long. When you're talking about Francis Ngannou, however, you're taking a look at the KO TKO, 73% win percentage, 27% submission. He's never won by decision. So when you're taking a look at this, you're taking a look at either Ngannou's going to win by knockout or TKO, and Stipe is probably going to, if he wins, it'll be by decision. The fight time for Francis Ngannou is about 5.5 minutes, which means he just gets into the second round. So a lot of his power, a lot of his moves are probably going to come in the first round, maybe even the second round. After that, he's got to try to conserve his energy for those championship rounds because it's going to be a long, long time for this man. He has not been in one of these fights in a long time. As you said, 2017 was the last time. I fully expect that he's going to have to put everything into his abilities in the first and second round. After that, he's going to have to conserve the third and the fourth and really try for the fifth round at that point if it goes that far.
Nonetheless, this fight is going to bring a lot, and I think this is definitely a fight that you're going to want to tune into. It doesn't matter if this is the only championship fight on this card, it's going to be well worth it because you have the most powerful fighter and the scariest fighter in the UFC, possibly in the world. Francis Ngannou is a sight to be seen, and you're not going to want to miss out on any of the action.
Now, as we do with all of these major pay-per-views and all of the UFC fights that we do, we take a look at our DraftKings betting odds, taking a look at the Stipe Miocic versus Francis Ngannou 2 fight. Francis Ngannou comes in as the favorite at -21 and Stipe Miocic at a +102. So while it's very close that these guys are pretty close on the money line, they are favoring Francis Ngannou for this fight. So if you're going to take Francis Ngannou, I would suggest trying to parlay this with a knockout and see if you can get that. Because Ngannou, like we went through with the numbers, he doesn't really have as big of a tank as Stipe. He's never won by decision. Most of his wins have come by knockout. I would go with Francis Ngannou parlayed with a knockout here. All right, well, that's going to do it for now. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell. We go live every single day. That'll be all. Peace and love.